Meeting to order of the Chartered Clubs Committee, and ask you to stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball. Play ball. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. Cheryl Tyler is the only one missing, and she was not able to attend online. So, but we do have the quorum. So moving on, I will read the meeting procedure statement, the newest one. The governing board and its committees conduct all of their meetings in compliance with Arizona Plan Community Association open meeting laws per Arizona Statute 33-1804 and in concert with RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures, as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, which is procedures for owner-member meetings, and standing rules number 1 and number 2. And that will take care of that. Moving on to 2-01, approval of the minutes of our February 4th meeting. Does anybody have any additions, corrections, or changes? Seeing none, those minutes will stand approved. Okay, moving on to reports on 3.01, Chartered Clubs Managers Report. Casey.
All right, thanks, John. Just going over some events that we have going on right now. If you haven't been over to Palm Ridge for the pickleball tournament, they had their ball drop yesterday. We don't have a number of how much they've raised, but I hope to have a follow-up next month of where they stand. So if you haven't been over there, swing by. It's all day tomorrow. I think they're probably wrapping up for the day all day tomorrow, and due to the weather, they may have to extend it into another day. Then Sunwest Art Club has their art show this weekend, the 8th and 9th. Karaoke has their 25th anniversary at our Music on the Green, which is next Wednesday with another prediction of rain. So we'll see about that. Sun City West Tennis Club has their Swing into Spring tournament March 26th through March 30th. So those are just some fun things coming up. And then our Munchie Mondays with the Munchkins. When I had this updated, you can go to the next one, Laura. One more. We have been able to add some more clubs just in the last few days, so that's good news. So this is going over very well. March 24th, we're going to have the witches are going to do a parade with a dunk tank, and I still am the only one that's volunteering to get in that. So any staff willing, that'd be great. And then for April 7th, I was actually able to get a sponsor for that one, and we will have a band that day as well. So those are looking good. Clubs are being more involved, and hopefully we'll have a lot of participation from grandkids. And then moving on. And then a reminder, CR6s are due May 1st. So if you do not know what this is, please reach out to scheduling and they can help you, but it is your 2026 calendar for your board meetings, general membership meetings, and your regularly scheduled activities, and your 2 free socials and any other socials thereafter. So we do have a process. If you attended the officers meeting, which I hope you all did, Laura went over that in very much detail. So if you have any questions, again, please reach out to us, and we're happy to help.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, any comments from the audience? Don't all rush to the mic at once. Okay, moving right along. We'll go to the liaison reports. Now, In the past, I've kind of gone person to person for the liaison reports, but sometimes not much has changed. So I am just going to ask the committee what any comments that they may have. And before that, I would make a comment that both Denise and Nancy kind of threw down the gauntlet. They passed out sheets of the interviews that they've had with all their club members and documented it. It's quite a good job that they did, and I learned a lot from it. So any comments, any liaison reports that anybody would like to talk about? Nancy?
You know, it was a bit of a process for Denise and I to get all this written up. We started off with a main sheet of questions, so everybody was asked the same thing. A couple of them I didn't make. Denise filled me in, and then we both wrote them and sent them back and forth between a PC and an Apple. That was pretty fun. But I think it's nice that we've got them written up and you can really look through them. And there's going to be a few things, probably for Carl, a few things that they, requested. But it's nice, I think, to have us all have it written down and people can really see, and then you can turn it and say, yeah, these guys were asking that. So I would hope next year we would kind of go to that format. We'd create a questionnaire, and that we'd have written stuff, even for Casey to look back at 2 years, like, what did they say? That kind of thing. I come from a school district, so it's all data and it's all documented.
Well, I think for somebody like me who kind of got dumped into this position, having no real experience with chartered clubs, having documentation like that to go back and look at would have given me a little more background. Anybody else would like to report on anything? Vicki?
I have one more club in the hobbies group that I will be attending their board meeting this month. And I'm also happy to announce that unlike the 2 previous years, although I was saying the same thing as liaison, if you have any questions, if you're uncertain about something, either call me or email me, please. And they are doing it this year. I've gotten a number of emails and I've gotten a number of calls. Can you clarify this? And what I've said to them always is, hopefully I know the answer. If I don't know the answer, I know who will, and I will check with them. So it's been working out very well.
Great. Anybody else? All right. We will move on then. We're going to move on to new business 4.01. Bowls USA Tournament. Committee member Nick Turner is going to step out of his role on the committee and step to the podium and review what's coming up, hopefully for the Bowls USA. Nick?
Yes, thank you. I am a member of the Charter Clubs Committee, as is obvious to those of you who are here. But I'm also president of the Johnson Lawn Bowls Club, and this item involves the US Open lawn bowling tournament, which will be held later in the fall. And so I am recusing myself from my committee position. I'm here to do the presentation, answer questions, and I will also be abstaining from the vote. But I have a presentation here which has been provided by Bowls USA. Those of you who remember the tournament last year will have seen a lot of this detail. So I'm just going to go through the presentation and just focus on some key things in terms of how that impacts us here in Sun City West and the benefits that a big tournament, national tournament, international tournament like this can bring us. Bowls USA is just the national organization for lawn bowling here in the United States. It is split into regions. We are part of the South Central Division. Most of the South Central Division activities actually take place here, Sun City West and Sun City Grand. Here, Sun City and Sun City Grand. The sport of bowls has been around for a very long time. Started in England, but has now spread across the whole world. And the United States organization, Bowls USA, just sponsors 2 events. The rest of the events are managed regionally. or by World Bowls. The US Open is an true open tournament, and it's open to any competitors worldwide. And then there's the national championships, which are only open to US nationals. And some elimination rounds for those championships are actually scheduled to be here in Sun City West as well. The thing which I find most interesting, and I think is of great benefit to the community here, is the number of people involved and where they come from. You see there for 2024, there were 311 competitors, and most, not all of those competitors played here. There are so many matches involved that the plan this year is to host the tournament on 4 or 5 greens in Sun City, 3 of our 4 greens here, and over in the Grand as well on their green there. And so some aspects of the competition, there are singles, there are doubles, there are triples, and so on. And there are men's and women's competitions. Some of those heats and finals will be held in Sun City, some will be split across the different locations, and some will be here. Why are they doing this in Arizona again? And the answer is basically, as you see there in the top line, the best greens in the USA. Bowls USA want to hold the tournament here because of best greens in the USA. Between us and Sun City, I think that is certainly a true statement. Sun City West and the Grand are close together, so if competitors are having to move between the different facilities, it's only about a 20-minute drive. The alternative is to host this tournament in California, where they have to do about 2.5 hours between different venues. So it's good that they hold it here. Because we have 4 greens, we can host a lot of competitors, and we can still keep 1 green set aside for our regular club members. We can host an international competition in Sun City West, and our club members are not displaced in any way. They can still turn up every day while that competition is going on and bowl, because we have capacity to do that. It brings in a lot of people. Oh, before we get onto that bit, what do we in Sun City West have to do? Todd and his team will have to take care of green maintenance, but they're doing that anyway. We just need a little bit of special attention while the tournament is going on, just to make sure everything is correct. The recreation centre staff have to clean the restrooms and empty the trash cans more frequently than normal, but there's not much more to do than that. And when it comes to the daily setup, takedown, maintenance, hosting, looking after things, then the Bowls Club themselves will do that. The club membership helps set up in the morning. The club hospitality people help with the food and snacks and beverages and so on, which are not provided by us in the club. That's coming in from the tournament fees of the players. And we help break down at the end of the day. And the club also supplies a lot of markers, as they call them, for the singles tournament. When you're bowling singles, it's very difficult to see what's happening at the other end of the green. And so Bowls has a position called a marker who stands at that other end of the green and answers questions about the layout of the bowls. Who's closest? How far away is it? And so on. A lot of those positions, again, are our club membership, filling that role for from the bowlers. And I'm just going to go through to one other slide, this one. One of the things I heard last year when we hosted this, and as I've heard during some of the regional tournaments from the competitors, is just how good our facilities are here. This is a great place to come. The greens are excellent. People like playing here, people come here. And one of the things that this tournament does is it brings in a lot of people from all over the world. People are here from Hong Kong, from Thailand, from Europe, New Zealand, Australia. They come in, but the vast majority, as you see, come in from the USA and Canada. And I think it's a great advert for the community that if there are Canadian snowbirds looking to buy a house for a warmer winter, why not buy somewhere where there's great bowling? And we have, as you see, 89 Canadians were here last year for this tournament. 149 Americans were here for the tournament. So my request to the committee here is to make a positive recommendation so we can take this to the governing board and we can do as we did last year, which is host the US Open here in Sun City West.
All right, thank you, Nick. I think last year's competition went very well, and I'm not aware of any problems that were had. So with that, if there are any questions or comments from the committee? It was a good event. Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay. Well, moving on then, I would like to have a consensus of this committee to move the U.S. Bowls tournament to the governing board. So, all those in favor of moving it to the governing board, please raise your hand. Any opposed? None? Excellent. We will move this forward to the governing board workshop then. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to new business 4.02, an update on the RR&Ps action taken by the governing board. There was a lot of discussion on this, but at the February 20th governing board meeting, directors discussed the latest revisions to the RR&Ps. There was considerable discussion on areas that should be considered for additional editing or reorganization or deletion. One area that received a lot of attention was section 7.1, Publicity of Chartered Club Operations, Chapter 8. The additional restrictions on personnel identifiable information were not appreciated by most of the clubs attending. Consensus was that the changes made to that section should be eliminated. Additional discussion can be found in the board minutes. In part because of the hundreds of hours spent by the Chartered Clubs Committee Working Group, of which we have the two chairs right here, the board approved the revised RR&Ps with the changes to section 7.1 of Chapter 8 eliminated. Directors and residents were encouraged to submit other potential changes to the Chartered Clubs Committee for possible future changes to the RR&Ps, as this is a process that occurs every year. And I must say that the discussion that we had, there were a lot more changes that were considered or looked at or proposed. And I think people say, well, why did you approve it? Well, I think there's a couple reasons. We had people that spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours going through these and editing them, and they did an incredible job. That doesn't mean that they did everything that needs to be done. And at the end of our session with the board, it was, we asked that anybody that has any additional changes or edits that they would like to see in the RR&Ps, please forward them to the Chartered Clubs Committee, myself, or any of our members. And I can't say for sure that we would get to them yet this year, in this fiscal year, but they will be considered the next time we go through the RR&Ps, because there's just a host of things that were discussed that could be potential changes. So please keep that in mind. Any questions or comments from the committee on this? Nancy.
John, we had a very good, healthy meeting with the Spanish Club, and they had a few suggestions, which when you read through this, it may or may not come up for next year, but they were all pretty positive about the changes, and every club we talked to, they've read them, they've reread them, they've passed it on to the other presidents, and they've really done a good job with them, I think. They're very serious about it. So, good news for us.
All right, thank you. Appreciate those positive comments, don't we? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Any other comments from the committee? Any comments from the audience? Oh, this is far fewer comments than we had at the board meeting. I like that. That's good. All right, well, I thank you for that. We will move on. 4.03, club space, I shouldn't ask, we had nothing online, never mind.
No.
4.03, club space expansion request. I think I am going to turn this over to Casey. This is basically the report that we had from the meeting we had of, 18 people here this last week. Casey.
All right. For those of you that don't know, we had an expansion request from Clay Club and Glass Enameling, Fused Glass, and that obviously, oh, that was interesting. That obviously impacted a couple of other clubs, one being photography and the other one Computers West. We had 2 representatives from each standing committee of chartered clubs, properties, and budget and finance, plus the clubs involved, and a handful of staff, including General Manager Stephen Erno, Capital Improvement Manager Carl Wilhelm, Maintenance Manager Russ Boston, IT Director Kyle Hockman, and myself, Casey Huda. So I will read you what I sent as the final consensus to the clubs, so it's as transparent as possible. Clay Club and Glass Fusing and Enameling had a majority consensus from the group tasked with this study that both clubs need an expansion. This is something that will not happen immediately, but in the future, possibly with the $30,000 kept aside for the 25-26 budget year for architectural needs amongst the Clay Club, Glass Fusing and Enameling, and Photography West. Photography Club is located between Clay Club and Glass Fusing at Beardsley Recreation Center. Because this club sits between the 2 clubs requesting an expansion, it was another majority consensus that the club should be moved, not disbanded. Just like to make some of that stuff clear. Again, this is for future reference. Staff has been tasked to find new location for Photography West in some capacity, whether it is rentable space or something else that could fit their needs on our property or in a new location. Again, this is not an immediate action, but will be reviewed for the future. Clay Club has the highest participation numbers with restrictive space currently around certain areas, such as glazing, drying, and wheels in the classroom. In the meantime, the rec centers will work with the club to come up with accommodations till we can further discuss a plan with photography. Glass Fusing has a very restrictive space and utilizes 2 rooms in which is felt as an unsafe space when needing to move glass from one room to another. They have requested a look at compliancy for safety of their members as well. Russ Boston is currently working on this to make sure all safety needs are met to standards, and if not, we will have a follow-up with the club and work on those needs. Computers West. They were involved because it was thought in the beginning that photography and computers could have a shared space. As majority consensus of the group, it was decided that Computers West will not be included in this particular study moving forward. The end.
Thank you, Casey. I think this, we had 2 meetings with, I think there were 18 participants. We thought it would be a little more efficient getting all 4 of those representatives from all 4 of those clubs with staff, with the Charter Clubs Committee and Properties and Budget and Finance, get everyone in one room and try and talk through this. And after the first meeting, there weren't any real recommendations to be made. At the second meeting, it was, people always say, you know, well, you already decided what you're going to do. Well, we had kind of thought about what we were going to do. There was quite a bit of a discussion about moving photography over with Computers West. Well, this shows what a very functional, good meeting can do, because in the end, nobody wanted to move photography in with Computers West. They decided that we needed that space, but we are going to find another place for photography that will work for them as well, if not better, than where they are now. So anyway, we need to move this recommendation forward to the board, but if we have any comments from the committee, we'd love to hear them. Yes, Denise.
I'm just curious why this went, after we had voted no, all of a sudden it came back. And a majority of us were left out.
And we voted no on.
When we had voted no on the expansion.
Well, there was no satisfaction for anybody. You know, voting no on that expansion request just kicks the can down the road, and it seems like over and over again we're just moving the can down the road, but we don't just tackle it and come to a decision and work with it. So this idea of trying to get this group together to have more discussion about it kind of took root, and I think it worked really well. Now, obviously, we're back at the committee, so if there are, we're certainly open to further discussion and more questions as to what we should be doing. But, yeah, Nancy.
John, are there, Casey just gave us a really good rundown. Is there minutes from that or anything that I would feel kind of caught up? Because as this goes forward, we'll be working on this next year too, don't you think, Casey? Or Carl?
I kind of to answer Denise's question though,
Yeah,
it got brought back to the governing board for them to reevaluate. So that's why the committee's consensus didn't move as a no. They opened it back up and asked for further information. If you guys decide to move this as a recommendation to the governing board of what I just read, then it's up to the governing board to decide how they want to task us for the future.
And we can forward a copy of what was produced, attendees and all that, to the rest of the committee. I thought maybe you were going to get that in your packets, but that would be my bad that you didn't. Any other questions or comments? Nick?
I'm sorry if I missed this, but is there any timeline involved?
Yes.
Well, there is, but the governing board has to determine that because they're the ones that have to move it forward.
Okay. And I was going to say, my recollection is the same as Casey said, is that our no recommendation went to the governing board, and the governing board rejected that and sent it back again.
And the timeline, there was $30,000 in the budget to look at planning for the next fiscal year. And the recommendation is that stays in the budget for planning for the next fiscal year. But no actual major changes are going to take place next year even. It would be the following year. David?
I just had a comment. After the meeting, I was thinking nothing's going to get done right away, but one major choke point for clay is not enough kilns. I was wondering what the process might be to see if and they have an outdoor space, maybe if they can get another kiln or two out there and help relieve something sooner than this process is going to take a while to find a place for photography and stuff. So I didn't know, we didn't really discuss that, and I just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's the part where the rec centers will work with the Clay Club to come up with accommodations to further. It's in that report.
This is pretty much, once we move it to the board and the board agrees with this, it's pretty much operational decisions after that. And when they come up with a plan, they will bring it back, so we'll be able to see it. Other comments from the committee? Any comments from the audience? Oh, I love it. could have left that mic off for the day. All right, with that, I would like to have a consensus of this committee to move these recommendations forward to the governing board workshop. All those in favor of moving it forward, please raise your hand. Any opposed? None? Excellent. I thank you very much, and it'll be good to keep this moving forward, and it'll be interesting to see what Ops comes up with in the planning for all of this. Okay, moving right along, we will go to 4.0. Did we have anything? Oh, we did have a comment online. Hang on a moment.
It's about the RR&Ps. Do you want to take it at the end? Or?
Yeah, let's take it at the end. All right, moving right along. Proposed fiscal year 25-26 SIP R&R $50,000 or more. I guess we're going to start with Carl.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Director Chatton. Here we are in March. We are at the final steps for the capital portion of our yearly budget, proposed budget. And so after today's discussion, just looking forward to this committee working towards a recommendation to the governing board of the presentations I've given you to date. I technically don't have any changes directly affecting charter clubs, but overall, if anybody here interested to see changes in our budget that's being proposed for the capital, proposed capital, please go and look at the YouTube video from this morning's charter BNF committee, and you'll see the budget in its entirety. My documentation here is always a little different than what I see on the screen there. So as far as the charters clubs is concerned, the only two line items for your recommendation is the Clay Club $30,000 and the lawn bowling regrassing of the 2 courts. And I would just like to mention one change of since February. We did remove the tennis windscreens at R.H. Johnson for $75K and put those in a deferred year. So that's the only thing that was deleted from your previous lists in February.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments for Carl? Anybody from the audience? If not, we will thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Todd? Did you have anything? Oh, no. Not a thing. Okay. Process-wise, I'm not sure. Do we have to move this forward to the board also? Okay, I will ask the committee if they're in agreement to move these 2 items forward to the governing board. If so, please raise your hand. All right, thank you.
I'd just like to point out that as president of Lawn Bowls, I just abstained from that.
Yes. Your hand did not go. All right. Well, this is going well. I like that. Any comments from the committee? We'll start with Nancy.
Oddly enough, I don't have any other comments. Strange.
All right, thank you. David?
No further comments, only to, I think the meeting we had with all the clubs and everybody was a good idea, so that something wasn't presented in a bunch of different meetings and having to go back and forth. So going forward, I hope that same thing can be done in other cases that are similar. But other than that.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought that went really well. The only downside is exactly what Nancy had talked about earlier, not having the whole committee there and having to rely upon the recommendation. But otherwise, I thought it was a great process. Denise?
Perhaps at one point, you and I could have come back to the committee or something and had a meeting and filled them in and get their input or something after the first meeting. So I might suggest that as well.
I just agree that I would have appreciated something coming back. Just because, I mean, I felt like we were kept in the dark. That's all. No other comments other than, once again, thank you so much for your team with the RR&Ps.
Mike?
I can't think of anything special to say, so I'm out.
We'll let you off the hook then. Vicky, you have any, oh, I'm sorry. Nick, you're here.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to the club presidents who gave us feedback as we went through the RR&P process. I know there's one or two of you in the audience here, and I know that there's one or two watching online as well. So I'd just like to say thank you for that, and I hope that you either saw your feedback incorporated or from the presentation you saw why we decided not to incorporate it. So thank you very much.
Vicky?
Part of me very much agrees with Denise. While I found Casey's summary to be very informative and certainly enough for me to come in on the part of the consensus as moving it to the governing board, I think that in future, if something like this does occur again, I think that it would be a great idea for the information, the additional information that was asked for at the first meeting and the answers to those questions that were given at the second meeting, I think should have been distributed amongst the members of this committee so that we would have had an opportunity to digest it and make even a more informed decision. I feel like we were left out.
Appreciate those comments. Pat, anything?
No, I won't say anything.
Anything further, Casey?
Yes. RR&Ps have been posted, so they are on SCW Club's website. So if you are still getting the old ones, make sure you're cleaning out your cookies. And then we also update a new incident form, incident accident form. So just did that. And there actually are some, it's a little bit easier to follow as far as directions are concerned. So make sure, as I said before, if you guys are using any forms that we post online, use the most current updated one. They each have a date on the bottom. So this one will be a 2025 date. And then the other one, I'm not sure if anyone saw it because I haven't received any information, but when I sent my email out to the clubs on Friday, BMO Bank is willing to do a club seminar and trying to just get some interest in people. We have it set for April 16th here at 10 a.m., which is the lecture hall. And it's just basically on theft and fraud. They'll relate it to your guys' clubs as well. It's identity, but then for your club as well. So with everything kind of going on in the IT world, I'm just trying to find other forms to communicate and help educate our clubs. So if you have that email, check it. And if you're interested, let me know. That's it.
All right, thank you for that. Nick, we did have a comment or two online.
Yeah, just one comment from Benita Howe 141368 from Western Air Chorus. And she said, is there a summary document or new RR&P available? And I believe Casey's just answered that question. It's now in the document section of the club's website, I believe. Yeah, the RR&P section of the club's website.
All right, thank you. You know, we need to talk some more about how this process that we used for trying to work out these expansion requests and including all the clubs and the applicable committees, we probably need to talk about that a little bit more because we really weren't trying to keep anyone in the dark. But the whole idea of doing it this way was to not have all 4 clubs present to Chartered Clubs Committee, all 4 clubs present to Properties Committee, all 4 clubs present to Budget and Finance Committee, and then after a process of months and months and months and months, it might get to the governing board and it would still be, all those people will still be there again, making the same presentation. So that was the whole idea behind it. Now, whether it was done properly or if we can do this better, certainly open to any input from this committee or any other committee, because other committees may want to use a similar type arrangement to try and cut down on meeting, and repetition. So if anybody has anything that they'd like to add, please let me know, and let our general manager, Stephen, know. Yeah, please.
First of all, I didn't dress to be up in the front. That's why I'm wearing jeans today, but I know, right? But to your point, Director Shatton, what the idea behind that really was to try to figure out if we could reach a resolution operationally, but not exclude those members of those different clubs and get their input on that. And obviously, if we had reached some what we thought was going to be a good idea, we would have brought that back. Now, to your point, I think it would have been good, and in hindsight, right? I think if we do this again, which I'm in favor of it. My typical way of operating is I like to get people together and try to work things out, and I'd rather not have to do that in some formal setting. I think it worked well that we were able to do that. But to your point, it would probably have been good to have some sort of follow-up on what had taken place, and if we had figured out something, that would have been brought back to the committee for some sort of formal recommendation to the board as well. So really the idea behind that was not to exclude anybody. It was actually really to include people and really get some good feedback from them. And also my goal was to have folks get together where they can sit across the table from each other and recognize that everybody's club's important. Everyone has their passion for their clubs, but we all still are one community. We need to work together to figure out, because we don't have the finite number of resources. We only have a limited amount of resources. And how do we work together to maximize our resources? That was really the goal. So next time we can do a little better, I think, on the communication back to the committee for sure. But I was super pleased with the way that whole thing took place, and I appreciate Director Chatton, your leadership on that. I think it went really well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Nick, another comment?
I was just going to say, it sounds like a working group, and we have a methodology for that in the standing rules. You know, you can give the working group a defined objective. You can bring in members from committees can sit on it. You can bring in expertise as needed and produce an answer or a recommendation that then goes back to the committees.
Okay, I know there'll be more discussion on this, especially if we try to use this process again. Okay. Any comments from the audience? We're going to get to go home early, huh? Yeah. With that, our next committee meeting is on April 1st. Is that April Fool's Day? I believe that is. Okay, 1:30 p.m. right here in the lecture hall. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.